It looks like it's 4 o'clock. We can go ahead and get started. John, would you go ahead and do a roll call, please?
Thank you. We are aware that Carrie Harpster is going to be busy today and can't come in because of a class. We are at 6 members right now because Mr. Paulson stepped down. He has recently changed jobs and is going to be doing additional travel. So we are at 6, and with Carrie missing, we have our other 5 members here today.
I guess we'll get started on item 2.1, approval of the minutes of the November 8th, 2018 regular meeting. Is there any discussion? None?
None for me.
None? Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, I move that we approve the minutes from November 8th, 2018.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. On to 2.2, approval of the minutes of the December 13, 2018 regular meeting. Is there any discussion on those? Negative?
I move we approve the minutes from December 13th, 2018 meeting.
I second it.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Okay. Next item, new business. Item 3.1. John, would you be so kind as to...
I know sometimes I'm guilty of that myself, that I have the mic down where you can hear me, so I'm going to try extra hard to do that today. I thought yours might be a little soft going into the meeting, but this particular application is submitted by Jake Sharp on behalf of Sharp Performance Fitness Center. You may remember him during 2018 when he brought forward a proposal to renovate 131 South Santa Fe, which was the old Bud Joka furniture store. He's appearing today to request the installation of one new 3-foot by 6-foot metal wall sign in the transom area of the building at 131 South Santa Fe. This is a 2-story vernacular commercial building that was built in 1988, and it's had various renovations over time. This particular facade dates back to 1919, and we're seeing what it looked like originally then. There was one more variation on that took it to this configuration where the interior 50 feet of that storefront block was changed over to a type of reddish brick, and also a aluminum and glass storefront system. So what you're seeing is the storefront system that was there until the middle of 2018, and we're just doing that for reference. It has aluminum storefront with a stepstone base, brick piers on the ends, as well as internal columns along the storefront, because that is a very wide storefront system, and it does have a transom area. We can go on to the next slide. This shows the construction underway now on the building itself. That's not a good shot. I couldn't get very close at this particular angle, but it does show that the bridging buildings on either side stay relatively the same. The building at 135 was renovated per the application you heard in 2018, and that was done before this particular project. 131 is getting very near to being finished, and I go one slide in to the building. This shows the storefront area. As you recall, they were going to move the storefront system from the face of the building along the sidewalk back to where it's recessed underneath the building itself. So they've created some open areas to the sidewalk on either side of that central pier, and that's where the main entrance to the fitness center will be. People entering the building will go through that opening in the center directly into the fitness building. The areas on either side, north and south, are sufficient in area to hold a small courtyard for members or staff or passers-by to gather in front of that as a break area. And I must admit, these were taking last week, so there's been additional work done on that, but substantially it's the same of what I'm describing. There is a variation that was requested by the applicant in this case, is to establish 2 additional brick piers on either side of the entranceway. Otherwise, you would have a series of these steel piers. Right now they're encased and cladded, and that would have happened here, but the applicant wanted to bridge that out to give the appearance of the building more its historic attitude, rather than having just simply the bridge of steel members there. This particular system breaks it up into roughly the same amount of storefront bays, but it does distinguish the central portion of the building, as well as bring back some of the original brick detail that was on the building originally. And in this case, there is a small brick wall that's being built up along the sidewalk, and that has a concrete cap on that, capstones that enclose that area. And we can probably visit with the applicant to see if the railing that we talked about at our last meeting was still planned for that building, because it was our impression at the last meeting that they were at least looking at putting the railing on there, because the differential in the size from the sidewalk to the internal spaces was causing a tripping hazard there. So I think they have addressed that with the low brick wall, and we can certainly ask the applicant more on that. As we go down through the slides, this is where the proposed transom sign is going to be. It'll be the central bay of the building. The transoms are divided up differently now, mainly based on the storefront piers that are underneath there. And it's not unusual for a building this old to have surprises for people who start construction on that. So they have been touching base with us and building services if there's any modifications. But what we're looking at today is simply the transom sign that's being proposed. And we can go one more slide on that. It's going to be a metal plate with the laser cut openings on that. That's being done to go in the central bay. The overall dimensions are 3 feet in height and 6 feet in width, and that will be placed in that central portion there. The logo and the name will be laser cut out, and the plan is to have a blue backlighting to the sign. So that will be the applicant said it's going to be very similar to this one that was placed in 2016 at Pathway Financial Services, and this is almost across the street at 120 South Santa Fe. It has the same silver finish with the blue exterior. It is also backlit from the inside, so those would be very similar. This one I believe is a little taller than the one being proposed. So at this point we've offered you some findings. We do believe that the proposed sign will be coordinated with the overall facade composition. The sign will emphasize the structural elements of the facade and will not cover or obscure architectural features. The proposed sign's internal illumination would backlight only the sign text and logo, and that's one of the recommendations on internally lit signs. The proposed sign will utilize a silver sign panel and blue internal lighting that would complement the building's materials on the front facade, which are primarily the bronze aluminum that they're using for the storefront system, as well as the piers on the building itself. So you would have the options today to approve the application as presented after hearing from the applicant as well. You could approve that subject conditions approved by the majority of the board, and in the case of a denial or postponement, that could be postponed if you want to acquire additional information as option 3, and then if there is a denial under option 4, there is an appeal process. So we have given you only one staff recommendation that if there's any changes in the project that you hear from the applicant today, that these will be referred to planning staff to see if they require additional review.
Okay, thank you, John. Is applicant or applicant's representative wanting to add anything?
Hello, Bob Moeller, representing 131 South Santa Fe. Do you have any questions for me?
Nothing?
Go ahead.
No question.
Okay.
Nope.
We're just wanting approval for the signage for that area. With it being a black frontage and the silver sign, we would like to change it to black instead of the silver with the blue lighting up front. That's the only thing on that note. With your approval.
Okay.
What color is that storefront? Is that a,
The storefront is like in that picture, the black brake metal there.
so just match that?
That top original steel beam is black as well.
And that has been painted since this was taken, so.
Yes.
Yeah. Is there a desire to put the railings between the storefront piers, or will the...
That is a question I had for the review committee. We were originally wondering if that would be a trip hazard. Currently it sits 14 inches off the ground and it's about 2 feet wide. So are you requiring us to have a railing with it being that substantial?
Is that a code
John.
thing, John? Is
Yeah.
is that required by code? I can't think that it is,
I
but
haven't placed that in my memory on having that as a stipulation on when it actually it needs to have a fence on that. Certainly a 2-inch differential, that would be easy to not see as you're entering or leaving. As having these small walls and the capstones, I think that visual element is going to be probably enough to prevent someone from tripping.
Would that railing then, John, would that be something that would come back to us, or would that be something that building services would?
I
handle?
believe we touched base with you last week on the railing, and if building services do require a railing, we could approve that as staff, if with your consent today. Is that a condition?
If we do have to do a railing, it will be black and match the storefront.
So storefront, the sign, and the railing would all be the same?
Color. It'll
Color.
be black, yes. And we would keep it pretty simple too. We wouldn't have any intricate designs in the sign or anything like that. It would be just a railing and slats.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions for? No? Does anybody have any questions for staff? No? Anything else to add, or is that it?
I think that's it for me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, that I'll bring it back to the board for discussion. The sign, I feel the sign is a kind of a no-brainer thing. I like the design, I like the idea, even changing the color to black, I actually like that. And I don't think that would be anything that would have to be stipulated in a motion, the color change, since the application actually says a silver. John, would we have
could
to
note that in the motion that the color has changed from the silver to a black.
silver to a black?
Include that.
Okay. Well, if there's No further discussion on the sign. I would entertain a motion to,
I move that we approve the application as presented with the only change that the sign will be black instead of silver. And that if there are any significant changes made to the design as presented today, that they would come back before the board.
have a motion and a second to approve with option 2, with the only significant change being the color of the sign changing from silver to black. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries 5-0. Do we need to discuss that railing then real quick while we're with them?
On that, we'll go ahead and check with our billing services inspectors on that. This is a fairly new element, and they may not have had time to assess that since their last inspection down there. And if it is an element, then you do have the option of just allowing staff to do the okay on that, because you have looked at the railing before, both in our initial meeting back in 2018 and then our update during our last meeting. So.
Is there any discussion on that? Anybody have an opinion on whether or not to allow staff to make that?
Like since the wall is itself like 2 feet wide, it's not dripping here anyway, so I don't see any big risk over there. If the city code permits that. That's my opinion.
I would be perfectly fine with allowing staff to handle that if railing is needed. I don't think that it's going to be required, but they might find a code that I'm not familiar with or not aware of yet, so just my thoughts.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. As long as it's not like a super intricate design, it would have to be looked at. As long as it meets all the city code requirements for the tops of the railing. Mm-hmm. What is that? It's got to be no more than 4 inches or something like that. Can't remember off the top of my head.
Most of the time we'll see about 3'6", but that's from the
3'6".
floor. So that this will be a little bit less than that because they'll be on that platform. So.
Okay. Do we need to formally make that motion, or can we just state that?
You can give staff direction. It doesn't necessarily have to be a motion on that. And we'll investigate the railing
Okay.
and see if it's going to be a determination that we can make.
Okay, I think we're all in agreement on that. I like that idea. Well, I guess that's it for 3.1. We can move on to 3.2.
Thank you, board members. This application is followed by VZ Nevitt on behalf of a work in progress, the Yogo Studio, and she is requesting a certificate of compatibility to install 1 new ground sign and 1 new wall sign on the building at 218 East Walnut. This shows the site plan for the building itself. This board has visited this location on several occasions, and a lot of that is in our background report. But mainly, the building is being renovated in stages. The initial building, which is this 30 by 50 foot building here, was completed initially and is now the location for United Way offices and a loft apartment. It does have a platform and some fencing out here for it. And there has been a apartment placed in this second building, phase 3A, and that is now occupied and finished. The next step on that is an area that was first designed out by the project architect as a house apartment, and that has since been changed on request, and do want to give you the correct date on that. And that was on May 11th, 2018, when the plans were proposed to convert the 1,668 square foot 3-bedroom apartment under Phase B into a yoga studio with 2 restrooms and a small locker room. That was revised, and you looked at that on May 11th. That yoga studio is addressed as 218 East Walnut and faces Walnut Street to the north. The revised master plan was looked at by this board on December 21st, 2018, and that Restore Properties has purchased the property itself from Fresh Look LLC, so the property itself is under new ownership. The last apartment unit over here is not completed, though it is a part of the overall property. What you see now going past the site is the development of the front yard area of the building into a 4-space parking lot with a 1-car garage on it, which is going to be constructed in this location here. The parking areas themselves have been laid out. The areas that you see depressions have yet to be landscaped because that's a recent completion. And this shows the new sidewalk along Walnut Street, and that gives access to the yoga studio from the north by that sidewalk. And the yoga studio building itself is 55 feet back from that front sidewalk from the property line. So the applicant in this case did want to distinguish that use better from the street, and that's what's driven the applications today. One is for a ground sign, which would be this particular one here. That is, I believe, 12 inches in height and 60 inches in width. So that's a 1 by 5 ground sign. It's mounted 8 inches above the soil there. And it is a solid wood piece of planking, and it's painted, and we'll have a border as well as a sign on that particular area. And it's recessed roughly back to be even with the fence that comes along the sidewalk there. But it does lead into the space itself. A second sign is proposed on the building behind, and we might go to the next slide. And it's going to be a wall sign with just individual letters using an MDF fiber composite, which is pressed and sealed. So it is a wood product, and these are going to be 16 inches in height on each letter. And and that's going to be 115 inches in width, so it's going to be a little bit less than 6 feet in width overall on the signage itself. But those will be individual letters. This is an engineered wood product. It has a good recommendation on that as being weather resistant, and the letters themselves will be painted black, so they'll be contrasting on the building itself, so they would help identify that. Under our zoning status, the building at 218 East Walnut is zoned C4 commercial, which many of the businesses are in the downtown area, and ground signs are allowed where a building is set back greater than 10 feet from the front property line. Most of the time you'll see buildings with surface signs, but when buildings have front yards, they are allowed to either put up either a ground sign or a pole sign. And that's why you see those in some areas of town. Those aren't very common, but they are allowed. Only one ground sign or pole sign is allowed per street frontage. And the C4 district allows 3 square foot of sign area for each lineal foot of building frontage. The building itself is 40 feet in width. This particular business wall is 40 feet in width on the building face, and that would allow 120 square feet of signage. They're well under that, proposing 18 square feet for the 2 signs together. The embossed sign is proposed along the cornice area to be better visible from 4th Street, traveling north and south. The ground sign is for foot traffic and vehicles traveling Walnut Street from east to west. So we believe that's well within our guidelines as far as notice goes, and it does comply with the C4 regulations. Under staff's findings, we would note that the proposed signs are coordinated with the overall building composition. The use of historic sign materials is encouraged, and these include wood products which are carved, painted, or sandblasted. As long as those are done professionally, those are also accepted. The proposed sign will emphasize the structural elements of the facade and won't cover architectural features. And the proposed signs will make the building more recognizable and pedestrian-friendly from the street. So at this point, we've given you a sizable background, but we've hit the salient points today of why a sign is needed in this spot and the status for the property. So do you have any questions for staff before hearing from the applicant?
For clarification, there's the white sign there behind that. That's just what's there currently and will be gone, right? There's not a double, okay.
Yeah,
I just thought I'd make sure.
Yeah, a temporary sign, yes.
No other questions? Then I guess we're ready to hear from the applicant or representative if they'd like to add anything.
Bob Moeller again, representing. I don't have any comments unless you have any questions.
Does anybody have questions for Bob? I have none. I got nothing.
Okay.
No-
Thank you very much.
No questions for you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bring it back to the board for any discussion. Is there any discussion? Anybody have any questions?
Not really.
Nothing? Okay. With that, then I would entertain a motion.
I move that we accept the two proposed signs, and if there are any significant changes, that they be brought back to the design review board for review.
Let's second it.
Have a motion and a second to accept the application under option 2, subject to any conditions. If there's any changes, they'd come back to the board. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Nay. Ayes have it, 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
We do have another item that is primarily conceptual. We've been contacted by Jacob Wilson asking and informing us that he's recently purchased 123 South Santa Fe, which is the Stamp and Coin building just north of Campbell Plaza. And he's currently working with a design professional on some ways of developing that property potentially. And he wanted to at least have you look at a conceptual design to give you some input. This wouldn't be design review, but it would allow you to look at the design and give him some feedback on the project itself prior to it appearing as an application. So if it is okay with the commission, he can certainly address you today.
Yes.
So,
Okay. Basically, our plan here, Campbell Plaza currently is scheduled for reconstruction with the downtown streetscape. We have been in a little bit of communication with Smoky Hill as far as when that construction will happen. Currently, there are planters along I guess the south side of the building that are scheduled to be removed. And, okay. So along here, there are planters in place that are scheduled to be removed as part of the streetscape. Our idea with the building is to possibly open the building up into the plaza to allow some function of possibly that business being incorporated with any future plans for the plaza. We know right now that they do the First Friday events and have live music in that area. So we basically tried to quickly put this together just to show you an idea of what we're thinking, and maybe just looking for some direction from you guys as far as design elements that maybe might be appropriate here. We have a couple other renderings that I guess I could let you pass around here or give you copies of that we didn't send, with different facade, I guess, material for the south side. And, there's options for the balconies up top or no balconies, and the awnings on the lower level. And then our intent is on the south side for those garage doors to be able to be opened if the weather is nice and that business could operate using the plaza. Currently, right now, we've just been talking with some future tenants. We don't have anybody lined up, so this is real preliminary.
I like the idea that it opens up into the plaza. I think that's really nice. Gives you a lot of opportunities to, explore uses for that space. I will point out that the rendering doesn't show the existing overhead structure that's in Campbell Plaza, and that I know that's pretty large, and I know it's not going anywhere. So my concern here would be the conflict of that and those little awning canopy things that are shown, because I know the tip of it extends out pretty far. So you might explore seeing if they can throw that in your renderings to make sure that it still looks
Okay.
good.
Okay. Can I pass these up to you guys? They're just basically different materials and color concepts.
What kind of shape is the brick in on that building? Is
I do
it?
not know. We've done some exploring, I guess, on. I guess it's kind of a stucco product on the exterior, but our intent is to remove that and try to get it back down to the original brick and clean it up.
What color is that brick? Is it? It's like a blonde brick right now, isn't it?
It's a blonde stucco.
Oh,
It's all stucco.
oh, the building is
It's been
stucco?
plastered over.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Very unattractive right now.
It's an existing party wall that was blank, more than likely.
Okay.
It does. It kind of blends
And
in
the
with
front's
coops,
like
doesn't
that
it?
too? The front's been stuccoed?
Yes.
Yeah.
Man, apparently I need to look a little closer at that building. I can't remember that at all.
Yeah, we were looking at it.
You want to see a picture of it?
Sure. I can't think of what it, I know when you say stamp shop, I know what you're talking about, I just can't think of. Oh, okay, huh. Yeah, it's like they
Right,
just, yep, interesting.
That's right.
Okay, so you plan to take that stucco off to see what the brick's like? Or you're like, hey, maybe we'll just fix it another way?
Yeah, we're going to try some methods to get it off. We had some pretty good luck inside 131 and 135 South Santa Fe. I do understand those have been indoors and maybe preserved a little better, but we're hopeful that the same methods got it back to the original brick and we could restore the original brick.
I agree. I like the concept. I like the idea of having a business of some sort there open. Like I said, when you go down there for the first Friday or some of the other events that are down there, it's nice to. It's interesting.
The design plan that's in the streetscape documents does show some outdoor seating along that side of the building. So the new planters scheduled to go in actually did take that into consideration that maybe somebody would do this with this building. So I think that's all I have now. We just wanted to get something preliminary in front of you guys, and we'll probably submit something formally here in the very near future. So, okay, thank you.
Nice,
Great,
I like
thank
that.
you.
Exciting.
It is, I like that.
Anything else, John?
That concludes the items that we brought for you today. We will be meeting on January 24th to go over the Design Review Board's annual report. That is a necessary step for the board. At this point, we don't have additional items to present at that meeting, so we will contact you ahead of that meeting and meet with you on the 24th. So that takes care of administrative items and preliminary discussion.
Okay.
We don't have any unfinished or other business today, and I don't believe we have anyone appearing for public forum, so with your motion and approval today, we will adjourn.
Okay. Well, if nobody has anything further, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, nay? The ayes have that. We are adjourned.
Good job.